Hello, everybody. My name's James. Welcome to another Planet FPL Clash of the Correspondents. And on this week's COTC, we've got a London derby to preview, or should we say, the important Arseman decision derby. Firstly, let me introduce you to our Fulham correspondent. It's Lewis James. How are you, Lewis?
I'm good, you.
Yeah, not too bad. Thank you, buddy. And our Crystal Palace correspondent, it's Ruaidhri McLoughlin-Dowd. How are you, Rory?
Absolutely knackered.
Rory's been on a flight today, bless him. So he's here with us. Don't worry, we're going to keep you entertained, mate. Particularly when I asked Lewis, "Did you really play the Arsemanship on Marco Silva?"
I did. It was it was obvious. I think no, there was a lot of talk about it because it was obviously before I played it against Newcastle, I think there was if you had got through to the final, I think it was of the Carabao Cup, we would have had a double. So I think a lot of
Yep.
people had talked about it, spoken about it, and then obviously the double never happened. So I think everyone sort of went off it. But I just thought, we've got two bonus fixtures followed by a home fixture. I went for it and, missed a consistent 18 pointers.
Well done, mate. That's a madness. I mean, Forest at home, good fixture to target, but didn't realistically think you'd win at Newcastle, did you?
I've got to hope. First time in a very long time, and I missed it. I wasn't even there.
I'm pleased that you got the points, though, mate.
A local
Are you
game.
sticking on him?
Yeah, there's not a lot of bonus value like in terms of other managers. So I think I'll just stick with it. To be honest, I think if we weren't playing Palace and Palace had that opportunity, I'd probably put it on Glasner, but obviously I can't flip that.
Well, you can.
No, because I think we'll win. So that would be
All right.
silly.
Noted. Rory, you got Arseman active at the moment?
Yeah, I'm on slot, so I've had slot for the last two game weeks.
Come
Um,
on then. Are you doing it, mate?
yeah, I think I probably will just because I don't really know what other transfer to do in my team this week. I could go and get Bumo, but so I was looking at it. Opta says it's about 30% Palace and 45% Fulham in terms of probabilities to win. So I mean, you may as well take a punt, right? At the end of the day. But as a Palace fan, I had a triple Palace till last week. I got rid of Sarr, and uh, brought in Clivert. So now I've got the space to do it, so I may as well do it. Have fun for a week.
All right. I figured that you probably would once I knew you'd gone for slot. Is that what you'd advise other people to do? There are obviously other choices. The bottom four teams are all available. I think that's it this week in terms of bonus hunting. Do you
Yeah.
think Glasner's the best punt from that?
From the bottom four, probably, because I know it is probably one of the more evenly matched ones. I think when you went through it the other day, you said Leicester was another one, which is possibly on the bookmakers' odds.
Leicester ever so slightly the favoured of the five
Yeah.
teams, yeah, but home advantage. I mean, to be honest, you've been quite strong away from home. They've just not been strong full stop.
Yeah, so we've not conceded in five away, but that includes like Doncaster and Man United, so like the smaller clubs. Um, but so we've not
Interesting.
not conceded in five, but yeah, well, our form is much better away. The question is whether so those two defeats, what was it, Brentford and Everton, maybe taking our eye off the ball in terms of the league. Don't know, maybe just because of the cup draw and the way that that's kind of unfolding. Maybe Glasgow went strong in the League Cup. So maybe looking at it, that's something that's more achievable in terms of actually getting something this year for us because Europe's probably dead and gone. So yeah, possibly. Is it something I'd recommend other people do? To be honest, I would side with Sudge in terms of just getting Arteta.
What, rather than going for Glasner, yeah?
Yeah, rather than going for the bonus. I mean, it's a new chip, so we don't really know how that's gonna actually affect things. And people look, okay, I can get this bonus if this shock result happens. But yeah, it's about working out how to play the chip. I'm not sure if it will be a chip next year or whether it's something that they'll just incorporate into the game anyway. But yeah, you've just got to learn how to. Everyone's just going to sort of be taking punts and trying to work out, and whoever wins it has probably just played the chip optimally, like Lewis, probably.
Yes, yes. I don't think too many have followed you, Lewis. So well done. Take your Fulham hat off for a moment. If you were going to move on to one of the bonus managers, do you think you would go Glasner?
Mm, no, I think I'd go Pep.
Oh, but he's not
Is
he's not
Pep not
bonus now,
bonus?
is it? Nah, none of them are.
No.
It's just Palace and the
Palace or
bottom four.
Leicester? Jesus. No, I'd go Palace, I think.
Okay.
I'd have more faith in Palace doing something than I mean I've seen Leicester twice this season, so yeah, I'd definitely go Palace. That's what I
We've
mean.
not.
There's not a lot of options for bonus chasing, so that's why I'm just sticking. But yeah, maybe
It
Glasner.
it it feels the best because I don't think you want to punt into the bottom four. I think like if Wolves are obviously at home to yourselves, Lewis, next week. I think even if they were at home to Bournemouth this week, you'd think, oh, Molineux, maybe.
Mm.
Away, you don't fancy it so much. And admittedly, yeah, Ipswich, Leicester, Southampton, all at home. I think if Tottenham had had a Europa game this week, then I'd have been tipping up myself, say, yeah, try McKenna. But I think with a week's break, no, you're the most likely winner there, aren't you, Roy? Because you're the best team, frankly, out of five.
Yeah, I've just checked. We've not beaten Fulham in six
That's good.
since they got promoted. Yeah, since
I
they got
knew that
promoted
stat. I
again.
just wasn't mentioning it.
Yeah,
Well,
it's just
why are you holding back information, Lewis?
It just looks like I'm just throwing digs to the whole podcast, so I'm just not. I'm trying not to be like that.
You're in a good run. You're allowed to.
yeah,
Sorry, Rory, go on.
yeah. But those kind of runs don't last forever, do they? So it's one of those things. But yeah, since you got re-promoted, we haven't beat you, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's the same with Brighton. I mean, since we've not lost to Brighton in the Premier League ever, we just seem to get the weirdest results against them. So it's just one of them teams, in it? Yeah.
Oh no,
Mm.
we've definitely beat you in the Premier League, but just not in
Well,
the last couple of years.
you've been in the Prem more than Brighton, little
Yeah,
Brighton.
yeah.
Look at you giving Rory a leg up against his enemy. I see what you did there, mate. It's like, where do we buy our narratives here, isn't it, Rory? So now we're going, oh, right, the historical record against Fulham isn't great. I mean, how much should we read into that, right? Was it two? It's two Glasner games, isn't it? One was a
Yeah,
draw at the end of last season. Jeffrey Schlupp scored a bit of a weldy, didn't he?
Screamer. Not got Schlippy
And
anymore.
no, he's too busy playing Champions League games in
Yeah,
the
him and
in the
Elise.
in the Alliance now with against Michael Elise, ironically. Um, but you've also just said you've gone five without conceding away from home. So which narrative do we want to buy into
There's
here,
another
mate?
narrative where you say until we beat Forest, Fulham hadn't won at home since the 5th of December in the league. So
Correct.
there's a lot of narratives.
You told me you only beat good sides, Lewis.
We only, well, it's more like we lose to rubbish, like Man United twice. I mean, there's been
Yeah, you two came firing for them today, didn't you?
3 games this season we've not scored, and two against Man U and one against Southampton. I mean, what are the chances of that? You
Is
know,
that right? That's the only three games you haven't scored in.
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, my instinct is the way you must be flying for confidence, Lewis, after these last two wins, Newcastle and Forest, because legitimately now with those two wins, I mean, you're right on Newcastle's tail. You've gone above Villa. You're up to eighth. That's a position that genuinely could be enough for a Conference League place. Europe is on here, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just injuries. Like we're very bare in the wide areas with Nelson and Wilson being out for a while. So obviously bringing William back is good, but I think it's like just anything with smaller teams. You get injuries in key areas, then you're sort of done. Doesn't matter how good you are, but obviously we're still in the FA Cup as well. I'm going to that one next Sunday. So see if we can lose 1-0 to Man U 3 times this
You've just
season.
completely dug out Manchester United, and now you're going up there as well, yeah?
Well, third time's a charm.
Don't worry, I'll scrub
Well,
out
what
your
happened
face.
last time
I'll
in the
I'll
FA
scrub
Cup
out
at
your
Old
face in the
Trafford?
video, mate. Yeah, try not to push any referees this time, mate.
Yeah.
That's would be handy for you.
Mm.
Rory, is should we read anything into obviously the fact you play again on Tuesday? If people are looking to go Glasner, just Tuesday's a challenging game against Villa as well. Is there anything into the fact there's the tight turnaround? Are you more liable to rotate in one of these two games?
I'm not sure we've got the players to rotate, to be honest. I don't know what's happening with Eze at the moment because he's been sort of injured and out the side, but coming off the bench. So I don't know what kind of injury he's dealing with. It doesn't seem to be very very kind of public what how bad it is because he can obviously play. So I wouldn't expect him to play both. Maybe there'll be some rotation there. But with Wharton being back, I'd imagine that he might start given the sort of Lerma. I don't know. Would I describe it as a mistake against Everton where he plays a man, not the ball? Maybe. So maybe it might be Wharton and Hughes.
You talking about the throwing incident?
Yeah,
It was weird that.
yeah. He went and tried to shoulder. shoulder charge the man rather than just play the ball that was 2 feet in front of him. So I don't really understand why. But yeah, Lerma's been a bit mixed recently. So I think, but I mean, if we're talking about rotation, I don't think it'll be a rotation necessarily that makes the side weaker. It might be Chilwell might get a game or something.
Would probably seem to make more sense to start Wharton on Tuesday, wouldn't it? I'm just thinking if he starts on Saturday, you're bringing him back out the team again on Tuesday. We could have some continuity, maybe view the recovery levels of Hughes and Lerma, and then put Wharton in for either one of them two.
Yeah, maybe, but unless he thinks Lerma's form's dropped off. But yeah, I don't think either. Well, I mean, I don't think we could beat both of these two back to back. So I don't think how close together the games are is really going to affect anything because I think they will have had a bit of a conversation after the Everton game because it was quite a poor performance.
Did we read anything just generally? This is kind of a wider conversation beyond Glasner, assistant manager. Should we read anything into the fact you've got loads more points away from home than at home this year? You actually average, you've won two home games, averaging under a point per game, yet away from home, he's really good. You've got the biggest disparity in the league. Can you put your finger on why this is?
We've often had that historically. I mean, maybe it's the traditional Selhurst Park, difficult place to go is actually nonsense because we did have that before. I think under Pardew we had that definitely, and I think under maybe in Roy's second season we had that big disparity as well. I mean, I think when you and I went through the games on the correspondent week right at the start, you were saying all the home games at the start were difficult, and then the away games were quite easy. I'd imagine the remaining away games that we've got left are probably quite tricky. So it's possibly just the fixture list.
They are. I'll shout them out. So it's Fulham away next, obviously, which is a challenge. Southampton at home game with 30. But then your remaining away games afterwards City, Newcastle, Arsenal, Tottenham, Liverpool. Which are
Right.
last five away games.
So with the exception of Spurs, we've got some difficult games away, don't we?
Pretty much, mate. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe we'll get the
We'll
points at
be
home.
focusing hopefully on the Europa League semi final. So I'm not arguing with you, mate.
Right. Yeah. So but, I think that's probably what the main cause of the disparity. I think there will still be a disparity at the end of the season, but it's also maybe we had the all the injuries when we had decent home fixtures in the first third of the season, which has probably made the no. Yeah, we had all the injuries when we could have been picking up points against those teams, basically. So that's
And
probably had an effect.
as you said, Lewis, the Forest win was your first at home for a while. Is
Hmm.
there any concern? Is that a change in expectation, maybe? Expecting to win these games?
No, I think we had. Because I mean, it's apart from the Forest, I think it's like two wins. I think we beat Brentford on like the 4th of November, and then it was like I know Brighton on the 4th of November, or the other way around, and then Brentford. So it was like two wins until last week. But I think it was more difficulty. We've had some hard games at home. I think there's like Southampton where we drew 0-0, where we
Ipswich
should have.
2-2.
Yeah. Well, I think that was that away? No, it
At
was
home,
away at
wasn't
the first, yeah, the start of the season, wasn't it? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's the teams where we have to have that bit of quality to break teams down, that I think we struggle still a little bit. Whereas when it's an Arsenal or a Chelsea where they're coming on to us, and we've got people like Adama Traore, um, it's easier for us to break teams down.
Yeah, you've got some good ball carriers, haven't you?
Mm.
Therefore, Rory, do you think, I don't want to say low blocks, I don't think you play that way, but are you likely to sit in and let them have it a bit, do you think?
It might be a way of playing against them. I especially think, but with Traore, he can do for pace, he can do for strength. I think his form recently is quite a worry because but you've just got to
Well,
rely on him to stop himself, really, don't
yeah, I mean,
you? You can't stop
Forest
him.
played five at the back last week, and it didn't work very well. They were really bad. So I don't think it's
Yeah, I mean,
particularly five at the back. That's like the issue that we have breaking down. I think it's more like a low block, but I don't think Palace or Forest particularly play a low block as such.
It's so familiar for your team, though, Rory, isn't it? The
low block,
system.
just
No, the players are so used to the system now, whereas Forest have been changing a bit, right?
yeah, yeah. And when we play a five, it's quite asymmetrical because obviously Mitchell is defensively minded and Munoz just runs wherever he wants. Yeah, I think we play very direct. I think that kind of goes under the radar. It's not lumping the ball up to a big man, but it is quite direct into the channels, and trying to play, especially Munoz onto the ball out wide. Um, yeah, so I don't think we will sit in with a low block. I think it'll be quite a combative game, and we'll try and break play up in the middle of the park a little bit.
Okay.
I think that's a
Lewis, what?
key battle.
Go on, mate. Sorry.
Robinson against Munoz. I think down that side, I think that's quite a key battle.
Well, you have such a lean towards that side, don't you? He basically, particularly in home games, it always feels like
Yeah.
he plays like a left winger a lot. So there's a case there potentially pushing Munoz in. You're right, be a good battle. You think Sarr would play just to check on that, Rory? Because I know you'd already just said you'd sold him. Any danger to his place here if Eze's back to 100%, which we don't know at the time of recording?
I think Eze will still, if Eze comes back, he'll still play left attacking midfield. I don't think Canada and Ketia will take his place,
Yeah.
or Esse. But I think, yeah, I think Sarr will keep the shirt. I think that the only reason I've sold him is it's been frustrating watching him get secondary assists because he's had quite a few assisting the assister, which is very frustrating to watch. And
Well, it's
he's
your fault.
turning.
You came on the podcast before you won at Brighton and told everyone, "Yep, Sarr be your guy," and he went off against Brighton, and everyone went, "I mean, Rory was right," and it was too late, wasn't it?
Well, he got 3 goals in 2 games. So if they had listened to me, but they didn't trust me, that was the issue. The ones who
I,
trusted me got 3 goals in two
I don't know
games.
if people should actually listen to the correspondence. That's a debate in itself. What Fulham have you got at the moment, Lewis?
Um, Silva.
Very good.
That's it.
Just so you don't own Antonee Robinson at the moment, no?
No, I mean, he's obviously really expensive, and to be honest, I don't think he's worth the value buying new. I think if you've kept him all season, which a lot of people would have, that's fine. But I wouldn't buy new. I mean, Castagne is nearly 1 million cheaper, and we haven't bought anyone in the January, so you got guaranteed minutes there until Tete's back, which is probably not until mid-April at the very earliest. So
So mid-April, we're looking at what sort of roundabouts game, 32, 33.
yeah.
I think that the problem is for those again, it is a real long-term view. If you're looking at say Castagne versus Anderson at the moment, you are drawn, I think, to think, okay, well if Fulham go out to United in the cup, fixture at Southampton's on in 34, having Castagne or Anderson for that will be really useful. It is that far ahead in the thinking for those who say without wildcard or planning game week 35. It'd have to be Anderson over Castagne if you're looking that far, wouldn't it?
Um, yeah, I mean, if you're buying him for the sole intention of only playing that week, then probably yeah. But
But
I
it would
think
probably be the 2 weeks, wasn't it? Game week 29 against Tottenham in the blank, obviously, and then
which
that game week
kind of
34.
yeah. Tete's been out for so long. I just can't see him coming in and starting. I think it's more like he'll come on for Castagne. So I think he might have X minutes drop, but I don't think he'll be losing his place. Not not that late in the season when it's like and Tete's contract's up at the end of the year. We haven't got an extension and that's still up in the air. So he might be leaving anyway. So I can't see I can't see him just like I can't see him taking Castagne out fully for Tete when Tete could be leaving in 5 games after that. You know what I mean?
He also said Marco Silva, didn't he, towards the end of the January transfer window, wanted to buy a right back.
Yeah, well,
Didn't. Is that a disappointment or
oh for sure. I think that also the fact that he wanted to buy one maybe even shows that Tete's not going to be here next year. Because I think if Tete's signing a new deal, then we look for a loan probably in January, which we're never linked with any loans. Um, And then we sort of do classic Fulham, and the window's only open for deadline day for Fulham for some reason. Um, so we're trying to find a winger and a right back when we knew about the right back from the start of December. So I think it was frustrating, but also I think Silva bangs on all the time. Like if the money's not right and if the player's not right, then we'll make do sort of. So. I think I think he's got enough trust with the board where he makes the signings, and he clearly didn't think that the value for money was there for what he wanted.
do you still think it'd be manager's decision then, rather than him not getting backed from upstairs? And I don't mean
Yeah, it
him
was.
not
I
getting
think it
backed, but
was.
maybe
I
them
think
not
it was
providing
him,
is
but
better.
yeah, I think it was his decision because I think he knows what his budget is, and so I think he's on a budget, but I also think that he's not stupid with it, and I think he doesn't want to be mugged off. I mean, we're always playing the long game with like people like Leno. We're linked with them all that summer, and we squeezed every last penny out of the deal from Arsenal. And so I think it's more just the money wasn't right or the player that he wanted wasn't right. And also, like, if you're a player coming in and you see the two senior right backs there and you don't actually know
Yeah.
what's happening with Tete, for example, it's not really yes, you're going to the Premier League maybe, but it's not an exciting project if you might be third choice right back. I think they might need some clarification needed to be there. So I think it might be easier in the summer when either Tete stays or Tete's gone and there's competition.
If Tete stays, it's not a problem, is it, with the two right
No,
backs you got there? If he
I
goes, you're
think
obviously going
Tete's
to
better
want
than
something.
Castagne personally.
I understand. Rory, you got any Fulham at the moment?
No,
Okay.
no, I think they've got decent fixtures over the next 3 or 4, don't
Yeah.
they? But it turns a little bit
Yeah,
after
for
30, I think.
next four, so heading into the blanks, it was Palace at home, away games at Wolves and Brighton are fine, then Tottenham at home 29. And again, a reminder, Tottenham playing Europe 4 days before. It's now confirmed a 1:30 kickoff on that Sunday. So I think Fulham players for the blank in 29 are absolutely perfectly reasonable. I genuinely do. But as said, and I know you said you play better against the better teams, Lewis, but when you look at Arsenal and Liverpool straight afterwards, 30-31, you do feel a bit ugly about it. Whatever you own, you're going to be thinking, oh, do I need to move it on? There's Palace have got the double we now know in game week 32, for example. Bournemouth and Chelsea follow that as well. Then the fixture 34, Southampton, which obviously I guess could move if you're in an FA Cup semi-final. For those who own the likes of Robinson and they're running through, is it a sell when you hit that point in 30? Or I guess it kind of depends what you bought at, right? You
Yeah, I
might just be
think
happy to bench it, right?
I think if you bought it like 4.5 or 4.6, I think you've just got to keep that. I think unless you obviously need the value for a transfer, I suppose. But I think it's just bench. Fulham players are ideal bench players, in my opinion. Even
But
like
that's why the
let's
two
say,
the two 4.2 boys really appeal, Castagne and Anderson, because if you don't want to
yeah,
play them, it doesn't matter, does it?
exactly. And I think they're just good coverage, to be honest.
For those on Jimenez, you hold through to 29, or would you be kind of tempted to look around at others at the moment?
Again, I think Jimenez has been really good. I think it sort of got to a point. I think the start of the season, obviously, Muniz started the season, and then Jimenez came in, and I think you could see there was a lot of frustration whenever Jimenez would come off the pitch. And it's sort of now it is that Jimenez runs himself into the ground for 65, 70 minutes because he knows he's coming off the pitch. And it's the same with like Smith Rowe has started doing it where he'll run himself into the ground because he knows Pereira will come on. So I think it's just a better understanding of his place in the squad, and he's a better player for it, and he's been really good recently. I know he's old, 33, but he's so much more than a goal scorer in the team.
Is there a chance he doesn't start one of these next two, though, considering it's Saturday and Tuesday?
No, I think we've had a week off, and then it's Saturday, Tuesday, and then we don't play till Sunday against Man U, and then I think it's the following Sunday or Saturday. I think you'll play
Certainly
on
the
that.
following weekend. Yeah, it's like Wolves is the only midweek game
I think it's
on the
more
horizon
likely
for
that
you.
he'll not play against Man U in the cup.
Really?
Yeah, I just think like
It
I don't
feels
know.
like a huge game for the club. Like the way the cup's opened up. I mean, for both your teams, you've both got like good opportunity in that competition. I know you, whatever you say about United, it's a tough draw, Lewis, right? But if you did knock them out, like,
Yeah,
it's
I
open.
think we'll go like full strength, but I also think like um Jimenez and Muniz, there isn't as much of a drop off as there is for say the goalkeepers, because we've been playing the second string goalkeeper in the cup and he's rubbish. So I think he will bring like Leno in because I think that is a big enough upgrade to warrant it. Same with say Sessegnon's been really good in the cup playing left back, but I think he'll play Robinson. But I still think he might play Muniz because, like I say, like Jimenez is old, and if he does play for the next two games, it gives him a full 10 days off.
As a fan, though, would you not want Jimenez as your main number nine to play at Manchester United in a cup?
I would, I would,
And
but
it's not to say you can't start all three of these games, by the way, but surely for
I
you,
mean,
that's the priority here, isn't
it
it?
is a possibility that he plays all three because, like I say, he knows he's coming off the pitch, and he might play 65 minutes all three games. So I think it's um I think maybe it is likely he starts all three, but it wouldn't surprise us if he doesn't start against Man U in the cup. I'd be surprised if he didn't start the league games.
Rory, does that a similar kind of threat exist for you with the likes of Mateta this week? Like, couldn't catch a start on Tuesday against Villa?
Um, no, I think because it's Millwall, like it is more likely to be rotation in that game. Because if we're playing Man United or a City or something, then yeah, you would play your strongest team in that one. But Millwall, okay, it's a derby game. It's a big one for the fans. But I think in terms of the players that we have, if we play six or seven of our starters, we should be able to beat Millwall. So I think the rotation will probably happen in the cup game. We also don't necessarily have that much depth to be rotating with, Doucouré out and so on. Eze may be needing to rest. I think he'll probably rest the cup game, Eze. So
What's
I,
the instinct with him? Are we just assuming with Eze that he's been carrying this problem since the Arsenal League Cup game?
yeah, which is quite weird.
Yeah.
I do remember him getting a kick early on, but if you get a kick, it's a contact injury. You'd imagine that'd be a short-term thing rather than a sort of niggling thing that's going under. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's with Wharton, he obviously had that injury for a long time, and then they put off the surgery for 6, 8 weeks or something stupid. And it could be something like that, that maybe
Mm.
he got something that they thought they could maybe manage, like fluid on the knee or something like that. And they're like, oh, maybe we can manage this. And then they think maybe they need surgery longer term. I don't know, but maybe they wouldn't make that decision until we're sort of fully out of the cup, and they'll just try and manage it or something like that.
That would make him a very dangerous buy in fantasy at the moment, though, Eze, wouldn't it? You almost can't. Would that be a fair analysis?
Yeah, yeah. Well, his minutes will be very managed at the moment. I think he I can't see him playing sort of 90 minutes in all three of these games, including the cup game. So he'll probably start one of the league games, come off the bench in another one, and just have his minutes managed, play when needed.
What
Because
Palace? Go on,
sorry,
sorry.
he came off the bench in the Everton game, obviously when we were losing. So they obviously threw him on to go and try and win the game. So it is strange when they're like, if the player's injured, surely he shouldn't be on the bench. But if he's injured and he could be exacerbating it by playing it, then no, is that worth it? Given we're safe-ish.
What Palace have you got at the moment?
Munoz and Mateta had Sarr, sold Sarr, and possibly Glasner. I
Lewis, you
haven't
got
done
any?
that yet.
You got any Palace, Lewis?
Yeah, I got Munoz and I did have so I had Clivert and then sold him for Eze before he scored four. Um, then got on a strut about Eze, so I sold him for I don't even know. I think it was Odegaard. So now I refuse to go back to Clivert, and it's burning me every week. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
so just
stick to your
Munoz.
handy assistant manager chips. Keep Marco Silva, mate. Leave buying midfielders for the rest of us. You're extremely intriguing, Rory, your team in terms of the fixtures coming up. Are you with those two Palace players there? Are you committing to free hit in 29 then? Is that your
Y-
plan?
Yeah, because I've got a few Newcastle, Liverpool, and Villa as well. So I have committed to doing that. I sort of looked at not doing that. It's possible because I've got two transfers, but then that would change what I do with the Arsenal. I'd have to keep slot, I think. And I think the way I was looking at doing it is playing the free hit and then sort of trying to predict the FA Cup, dead end into 33 of the bench boost, and then wild card 34, and maybe deal with only having 7 or 8 players there who are actually playing in 34 on the wild card.
Okay. Ipswich before in 28. I mean, the next two's okay. Fulham Villa challenges, but you're capable. Ipswich 28, Southampton 30, the rivalry in 31, the double in 32. The double's pretty horrendous on paper, City away, Newcastle away, but you do have the strong away record. Then
Yeah, and you take your
Bournemouth at home 33, which of course could also become a double in the event you made an FA Cup semi-final.
yeah, and in that first double, you just take your 3 points from Daniel Munoz. And you just get on with it. Yeah, I don't know. I think if you have the free hit available for those of us who have that luxury, James, I think and you've got a couple of Palace available, then you should probably consider the free hit 29 because of those potential doubles.
I don't normally notice when the correspondent digs me out, but I certainly noticed that one, mate. Thank you. I've got my own way of playing this, and I committed to Mateta last week as well and gave myself a bigger headache. But it's because I think it's become very clear over the last few weeks that he's the Palace forward to own, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, with Eze, with the injuries and Sarr only getting secondary assists, it is just basically Mateta and he's ticking over. He should have got more. I mean, he was quite frustrating against Everton with that one-on-one early on. He probably should have got a goal from that as well. But he is getting chances, and he is, he's not back to his best, 13 goals in 13 games, but he'll probably get you maybe 10 in 20 or something like that now, and he's back in that kind of form, which for a Palace striker is very good.
If people were committing to free hit 29, they're obviously going to be extremely interested in him. Is it invest now or would you wait for 28, do you think? Assuming the
Well,
player you've got isn't called Cody Gakpo, because that probably makes it obvious.
yeah, I mean, it does depend on who you've got. I guess if you've got Jimenez or something, maybe you'd keep him and then move him on. Um, but for Mateta later on, yeah, it depends on. It's very team specific. I would just question why you don't already have him. But yeah, get him in for the Ipswich game, I would say. But it also depends on whether you're free hit 29 or not. So so much of it's dependent, but you might miss out on points. This is the thing with the whole free hit 29 thing. It's how it has a knock-on effect to the type of players you're bringing in for different games. And I basically think you should probably have Mateta. So if you're not free hit 29, you won't get him in.
In your opinion now, heading towards 32, I think particularly if you did make the cup semi, even though it's Arsenal away would be additional fixture, the idea of double double, even though before tough fixtures, would really appeal, particularly with the fixtures before the double double being quite strong. In your opinion, if people were committing to free Palace assets, what three do you think you will be heading towards?
I would possibly go Munoz, Mateta, Henderson at the minute. And I know you're not the biggest Henderson fan, but I think
No, I tell you straight, Dean Henderson is in my plans, mate.
yeah. So I would say it probably is those three. Sarr looks like he will play every minute and get no returns despite getting into good positions. Eze, I don't know. The minutes Mitchell, we've got Chilwell there. If Chilwell did well in a game, then Mitchell could lose his place. You could say you could get Mark Gay or Lequien, but I think attacking returns from our centre backs are kind of limited. Maybe so. I'd probably just go Henderson.
So I've got maybe a little bit of a different opinion on who the best free Palace might be, because I thought you were going to say that Glasner would be one. Because it's not just for us men now. Some of
Yeah.
us who've already blown our free hit, Rory, and can't bench boost because we've already used that. That went well, by the way. 31 to 33, it's on. And
Yeah.
I've probably got a straight shootout choice between Glasner chasing bonuses or Eddie Howe chasing stronger fixtures.
Yeah, well, then it comes down to the question of how you play, how because it's a new chip and we don't necessarily know whether we should be chasing the bonuses or chasing the sure thing of the wins. If you're more for risk focused person, then yeah, if you want to take that on, then that's probably a good idea. Um, 32, 33 with those doubles. I mean, that's why I went for slot now because he had the doubles, but obviously that's more of a sure thing. Depends on what other chips you want to play around that time as well, though. So it's a knock-on effect. I think all of those games are really tough though. And if we were doing well in the cup, maybe that's when we would be rotating. If we did get the semi or something, then
Yeah, but even imagine a different way. Maybe you don't get to the semi, right? So Arsenal's not a part of it and it's just the four fixtures. What if Brighton at home was a bonus game?
I
I mean,
guess it could
surely
be.
that would push me into Glasner. It's unlikely at the moment. Brighton are 10th, you're 13th, and you've got good fixtures on the horizon. I think they've got a few good ones as well. I don't think that would be the case, but if it did land that way, where you had some bad results and then Brighton being a rivalry game lands as a bonus, then the double bonus, then Bournemouth is definitely bonus. I think even more reason to commit down that route. It could be 5 games with a bonus in theory.
Yes. Yeah. So what game weeks is that? That 31, 32,
So
33.
31 is Brighton at home, and obviously it's Southampton away 30. So a different way to even potentially do it for some people would be maybe if you don't have the final fixture against Bournemouth, you go Southampton, then Brighton, then the double. But I think surely you'd want 33 with the bonus of Bournemouth, but some will be committing
Might bench
to
boost. Yeah.
bench boost in 33. So you go Southampton, Brighton maybe bonus, and then the double is obviously that's definitely going to be two bonuses unless well, I suppose you could catch up within space of Newcastle. That would be really off-putting then, if Newcastle away wasn't a bonus.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's a very difficult game. I don't think we've got a remotely good record there, but we did play a lot better against them earlier this season. It was 1-1. Um, yeah. You could do that. I've already played the chip, so I'm just going for the third week of Glasner. I do think the main issue with this chip is how long it lasts and prevents you from doing other things you are committed to it weeks in advance. But yeah, with getting 5 games in three, it's definitely worth considering at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you still subscribe, therefore, though, that Munoz would be worth more than a Gay, for example?
Yeah, because he pops up all over the place, and he looks like he's going to get an assist most games, to be honest. But he hasn't necessarily got the attacking returns so far, so maybe he's in the sort of poorer bucket.
It doesn't feel like he's got what he should has, does it?
No, I mean Newcastle, for example, was a game where he had a tap in. He should have scored that one. But yeah, he pops up everywhere. It feels like those kind of like the assist he got against Man United for the second goal is the kind of situation he's often in, and he doesn't seem to get the returns. But maybe he is one of those players who just looks very busy.
Yeah. He's on radar very much as well. I'm conscious for me, I would really want Mateta, I think, because even with two tough away games, that's the one I'd want if he scored once over the double. You could foresee it, couldn't you? 9-10 from doing not a lot, I think, even
Yeah,
with
I think
two tough
memories of
games.
last season as well, especially in the run in last season.
Henderson, you can obviously use it when you want and don't use it when you don't want. And even in the double, the two tough fixtures that get played. I've also got very little interest in the Pope Dubravka situation. So if I want to keep it with a double for that week, Henderson obviously stands out. Therefore, Munoz maybe becomes awkward for me because
You don't want
I
to have double Palace
well,
defence.
what I kind of want to do with Newcastle Palace in my own thinking at the moment is get to 31 and make sure I haven't got three of either. So I can commit
Right.
to which the priority being commit to how or Glasner one way or the other, but not make that decision before.
Yeah,
So
but that
therefore, I might be on Henderson and Mateta, it feels like.
yeah, so what are their fixtures at that point? If they've got particularly good fixtures, Newcastle.
So Newcastle's
Um,
fixtures, I mean, yeah, they're good around there. So you
yeah,
got Brentford at home 30, Leicester away 31, United and Palace at home as double 32, Villa away 33, and I guess it can be double for them 33 as well.
so it just
So you,
depends on your risk appetite, doesn't it? If
well,
you want to
exactly
want to
that.
punt,
It could absolutely land that from 31 to 33 is 5 games of just straight Glasner or straight Howe. Howe would have no bonus and Glasner could have five.
yeah, you could do. But we could also lose 5 games.
I'm aware, and Newcastle could win 5 games, and
Yeah, they could do. I think
yeah,
whichever one you end up with, you'll have regrets probably.
be an interesting risk reward. Lewis, before we finish, I wanted to ask you about Sasa Lukic. I gave him a shout out the other day. I think he's had a really, really underrated season, and the absence of Paulinho, we thought this time last year you basically couldn't cope without him. It's been
Mm.
all right. How good of a player is he?
Yeah, he's really good. I think it's a strange one because we bought him in the January a couple of years ago, and obviously with Polinia, you could never really play with Polinia. I'm not really sure why. I think it might be more Polinia because Polinia is like he wants to sit there by himself and run sideways to the ball, and I don't think he works as a double pivot. Whereas him and Sander Berg, they seem to work really well. Um, and it's allowing like it was interesting because unless instead of it being like a double pivot against Forest, it was Lukic basically played as he played in front of Castagne, in between Castagne and Traore. Um, and it's the first time I've seen it, and I think it might be to help Castagne out. You know, Castagne's going to have a lot of minutes to play, and he wasn't nearly as attacking on Saturday, and I think that was because Lukic has been asked to play in more of the right hand side of the space. And like I think you said he was 100% passing accuracy on Saturday, and it doesn't surprise us. You
With
know,
7 key passes as well.
yeah, and that is I think that's more because Traore had Williams on toast for the whole game, and I think a lot of that came from Sasa being on that right hand side and helping create them triangles. But yeah, he's really good, and him and Berg have a really good partnership. But he did go off. He did go off injured towards the
He's
end, but
flagged actually for the weekend.
yeah, Silva said that he said he was okay, but we won't obviously find anything out until.
Yeah, I haven't raised
uh,
it in kind of discussion for Saturday because we do think he'll probably be all right. But if Marco Silva said he was out, it's another one for the Glasner army, particularly. On Silva, I think I said this to you off camera before we started. I think the results for Forest and Bournemouth this season have very much disguised that your team's had an outstanding season as well, which is no bad thing. I think going under the radar is good. You also made a very interesting comment, the fact that those are the three teams, yourselves, Bournemouth and Forest, you all came up together
Mm,
a few years ago, and there's been so much talk recently about promoted teams not managing to cope. We've got three here could all end up in Europe.
yeah,
We got promoted together. There is a theme I've seen a few people mention this, particularly actually in mainstream media recently, about Silva's team being a team full of misfits, i.e., players who have kind of not locked down a place somewhere or been rejected somewhere else who are now just excelling. Is that
yeah,
a fair comment or not?
yeah. That is it's an identifiable target. So like Silva's MO in a signing is that like people like Iwobi, Willian, Leno, like all of these players are people that people didn't necessarily think were good enough anymore. Or and he brings them in and he puts his arm around their shoulder and they seem to excel. No, me and you were talking about Richarlison a few weeks ago, and that's someone that he's bought twice. He bought at Watford and Everton, so he clearly likes him. So I know you said we could have him half price.
Well, it's, the amount of injuries the poor fella get, he does have my sympathy. And of course, he'd be a great signing for you, mate. But yeah, these injuries are getting a bit out of hand for him, unfortunately. It's just never ending. Can't seem to stay
Must
fit for
be.
a month.
But then I think
Must,
it's like Smith Rowe is the same. People.
Yeah, go on, Rory.
He hasn't actually had an injury this season. Silva said that when he had a few games where he wasn't in the squad over the Christmas, that he wasn't actually injured. It was more precautionary. So which was quite interesting. Because he said um, that he felt muscle tightness, but it wasn't like a strain. But he took him out of the team because he didn't want him to lose confidence in his own ability by pushing him and then getting injured. So he took him out of the team. So he's not actually been injured this season. Which obviously when we bought him, that was the worry, wasn't it? Um,
Yeah, very much so.
so
Listen, if you want to bring the money for Richarlison, bring it, mate.
five
Rory,
to 10 million.
no, a bit more than that, mate. I might as well keep him, but that's not even money anymore, is it? What was you going to say, Rory? Sorry.
I think that strategy must have quite a hefty wage bill attached to it, buying from the big clubs, players who haven't necessarily made it.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
probably.
then lesser fees, maybe as well. Potential role to play in that. I was just looking back because we were talking about Smith Rowe, Lewis, it made me think about. I was sure that he didn't play the Southampton and Ipswich games. He didn't play the Southampton home game, played 45 against Ipswich.
Hmm.
Is that a factor in you drawing them two games then? Is he that important in terms of his
Um,
creativity?
yeah, I mean, to be honest, he's not being like. I don't think he's necessarily justified the money we've paid from this season, but I also think like this season, like if you look at someone like Lukic, it took him a year and a half to like fit Silva's system, and with Smith Rowe, he's obviously had so many injuries and setbacks that I think just for his own state of mind, he just needed a season where he's playing regularly, not getting injured, and we'll maybe see the best out of him next season. But I'd say from the Newcastle game and maybe the game before, I can't remember who it was. We've seen a lot more out of Smith Rowe, but he's also missing his mate on the wing because Nelson, against Palace particularly, him and Nelson ran the show that day. And I know obviously Palace had injuries, but
It did, yeah.
yeah, him and Nelson really have a great relationship. So be interesting to see what we do in the summer about Nelson.
Okay.
He's obviously
One
out for the season.
one more for you, Rory, before we finish. Ben Chilwell.
Interesting signing. I was interested in there being so many loan deals at the end of the transfer window, and I thought it was because they might change the PSR rules, and people were looking at rather than saving money for over a 3-year period, if you just have money in your wage bill and you're not spending it, it's doing nothing. So I think it's kind of that kind of thing where we have the space in the wage bill if you don't go and get a backup for Mitchell. Because we were linked with a guy from Slavia Prague who seemed like quite good, but one for the future. We could have brought him in, but they were asking for too much money compared to what we thought he was worth. Chilwell was available. Obviously, we know he can play in the Premier League. We've only got him for 6 months. Apparently, we're coming a decent whack of his wages. But for our system to work, I think Mitchell has to be better going forward, and he's made quite a few mistakes recently. The Everton throw in was one example. I think there was one against Brentford where he went to clear the ball and he just sliced it straight off the pitch, and then I think maybe is where the penalty came from. So I think Mitchell needs to be taken out of. He's played pretty much every game in every single competition for about 5 years. So
Hmm.
as
Feels like it,
as
yeah.
well. as well as the physical fatigue, it's probably mental fatigue as well, having to play literally every single game and travel and prepare for every single game. So I think that's built up for him quite a bit. And yeah, he doesn't contribute as much going forward. So for us, with the system being a mid-table team, maybe it makes sense having a very attacking left wing back and a very defensive one. And depending on who we're playing, like against Dama Traore, it would have to be Mitchell. I wouldn't want Chilwell up against Dama Traore, but maybe in a game, maybe the Ipswich and Southampton games, maybe go well, stick
Yeah,
Chilwell
it
in.
can go the other way though. You push him back, and if you've got Gay stepping out, it's obviously good cover inside of your wing back. So it deems that it's. I guess that's how it's deemed tactically on the day by opponent. I guess. Do you envisage Chilwell taking over from Mitchell then, or do you
I
foresee it as that it's going to be they'll rotate?
I think Chilwell will probably get a chance in one of these two Premier League games and probably the cup game. And if he plays well, he might well take the shirt. So because Mitchell has been making errors.
Chilwell, for those who haven't looked for a very, very long time, is 4.6. It wouldn't take much for him to become a bit of a bandwagon if Mitchell got injured or something, mate.
No, because he's been such a good asset in the past, hasn't he, when he was at Chelsea when they were playing back five. So yeah, he could be very good for us going forward. And I think that's what the system needs, to be honest. It has got a bit stale at certain times this season when we do play very direct football. I think we have like the shortest p passing sequences in the league or something like that. We usually only get 4 or 5 passes together because we just try and get it forward so quickly. So yeah, it would be good to have another string to our bow on the other side so it's not so asymmetrical.
That's very much to Mateta's benefit as well, though, isn't it?
Yeah, he's got good crossing ability and maybe Mateta playing off him as well because we do often get a lot of space there with Mitchell, but partly I think that's because other teams don't see him as much of a threat. So if Chilwell's there, I mean, it might
So it might
also
even
create more
consequence be
space.
better for Munoz even as consequence as well.
Yep, or the tens because if that was Eze there, then they can't double mark him and leave the channel open. They've got to think about that as well. So it will create space for a lot of other players.
Interesting. Gentlemen, thank you both very much. Let's do predictions before we finish. Go on then, Lewis. What score are you winning by?
4-1.
Shut up, mate. What score are you winning by?
No, that's the feeling I have.
4-1. So what
Yeah,
would
the reason why, right? We've been playing so well recently, and the game against Forest was like Bournemouth's game against Forest, but the only difference was Bournemouth finished their chances. That game was not 2-1 game; it was a 4-1 game, and we're gonna batter a team soon. So unfortunately,
yeah.
I'm gonna go on.
Unfortunately for me, it's probably game week 29, isn't it? As it was last year. So I take it you're getting Jimenez in and captaining him this week then.
Possibly. I mean, I've got Jackson and Gakpo problems, so yeah, something I'll have to give.
Mm, yeah. Boom, boom, boom. There ain't no striker better. Go on, Rory.
Yeah, 1-1.
No, I meant finish the song.
Oh, and that's true. Yeah,
So you think draw?
yeah. I think so. Away from home, I mean, our defense has been pretty solid away from home the last 5 games, and it's I don't know what's been happening at home, but yeah, should be fine.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give you the edge, Lewis, which is understand after the last two results. I think it's completely
No,
understandable
don't
to do so. But I would
predict we're to lose, please.
I know, well, you know, I've done that the last 2 weeks and you won both. So I'm sorry, I'm getting you back here, which should be really good news for all those who are thinking of playing their arsemanship on Oliver Glasner, because I've just told you that I think Fulham will win. Lewis has just said that it's going to be 4-1. So it's either 1 point Glasner or we're both wrong, and then Palace are going off and Glasner's going mad. Interesting. Anything you want to promote before we finish, Lewis?
Just the Patreon, Planet FPL,
Star man.
and the YouTubes.
Good man. Thank you, mate. And Rory?
Nah, you did that to me last time as well, and I couldn't back the Patreon after that, James, after you predicted Brighton to beat us. So I'll do it.
So I predicted you to lose to Brighton. You went there and won 3-1. The irony of this, we have a prediction competition with our patrons on Premier League games, and I'm top of it. So obviously just get it wrong on this podcast. Thank you both very much, gentlemen. Very best of luck to you both. Next week's COTC is Manchester United versus Ipswich with Gary Robinson and Paul Gore Allen. That will be out for you early Tuesday, ahead of the game week 27 deadline. For those on YouTube, deadline stream today, 5:30 p.m. UK time. Which sees me to say thanks so much to Lewis and Rory. Good luck, gents. Cue music, please. Man child.